You ever have one of those weird memories that just won't leave you alone? The kind that sneaks up on you when you least expect it, like when you're brushing your teeth or waiting at a red light? Yeah, this is one of those. It's been years, but I still think about it. I was 12. Scrawny kid. Not much to my name except a bike with a busted chain and a weird obsession with pocket knives. My dad and I were downtown, just walking. Nothing special. The kind of day that shouldn't stick in your head, but this one did. I saw him first, the big guy. Not just tall, but massive, like a walking oak tree. He was moving slow, almost like he was walking through water. Clothes were baggy, dirty. His eyes didn't seem to focus on anything, just sort of drifted. Even at 12, I could tell something was off. Then it happened. A dollar bill fluttered out of his pocket and hit the sidewalk. I don't know why I cared so much. $1 wasn't much, but back then, it was a goldmine, enough for a soda and a pack of gum, maybe even a candy bar if you played your cards right. But something in me said, nah, just give it back. So I did. I picked it up, ran across the street, and tapped him on the arm. Hey, sir, you dropped this. He turned. Looked down at me. Then he smiled. And that's when I realized this guy wasn't just big. He was gone. That smile. It wasn't normal. It was stretched too wide, too eager, like he was trying to remember how human faces worked. He took the dollar from my hand, stared at it like it was some ancient relic, and then his eyes snapped back to me. You're a good kid, he mumbled. His voice was thick, slow, like he had too much syrup in his throat. Real good. I took a step back. Something about the way he said it made my stomach twist up. Then, before I could react, his hand shot out and grabbed me by the top of my head. I froze. His fingers dug into my scalp, thick and heavy like steel cables. It didn't hurt, at least not at first. But I could feel his grip tightening, my head locked in place like a claw machine prize. Hey, my voice cracked. I didn't even know what I was trying to say. Maybe something like let go or what the hell, but the words wouldn't come out. His smile was still there, but his eyes had gone somewhere else. Like he wasn't looking at me anymore, just through me. That's when I realized, he wasn't letting go. And I wasn't getting out of this on my own. At first, my brain didn't process it. I thought, okay, weird, but maybe he's just, and then it hit me. I was stuck. This wasn't some friendly pat on the head. This wasn't a joke. His grip was clamped down like a vice, and he wasn't letting go. I tried to jerk back, nothing. I twisted, still nothing. My heartbeat slammed against my ribs. Hey, let go. I said, louder this time. My voice cracked, and I hated how small I sounded. No reaction. He just kept smiling, holding my head like I was a basketball. His hand was so damn big I swear his fingers almost touched around my skull. I did the only thing I could think of. I swung. Not a punch, I was 12, I didn't know how to punch. But I thrashed my arms, slapped at his wrist, tried to pry his fingers loose. Nothing. That's when the fear really set in. That deep, ice water in your veins fear. Because suddenly, I knew I was not in control here. And I had no idea what he was going to do next. For a second, I thought, this is it. This is how kids disappear. My mind went full panic mode. Should I scream? Bite his hand? Kick him where it counts? But before I could do anything, I heard the one thing that cut through the fear like a knife. My dad's voice. Hey! It was sharp. Loud. The kind of voice that makes people freeze. I had never heard him yell like that before, not at me, not at anyone. The grip on my head loosened just a little. Not enough to break free, but enough for me to gasp. I twisted my eyes toward my dad. He was already moving. Fast. I'd never seen him move like that before. He wasn't a big guy, lean, wiry, but in that moment, he looked huge. The big guy turned his head slowly, like he was waking up from a dream. My dad didn't stop. He was coming in hot, fists clenched, eyes locked onto the guy like a missile. And that's when I felt it, something shifted. Because for the first time, the guy hesitated. And I knew, in that split second, that my dad had just saved my life. The grip on my head finally loosened all the way, and I staggered back so fast I nearly fell. My scalp burned where his fingers had been. But my dad? He didn't stop. He closed the gap between us in a blink, stepping right into the big guy's space. He didn't shove him, didn't swing, he just stood there, fists clenched, chest heaving. "What the hell are you doing?" my dad growled. His voice was low, sharp, the kind of tone that made my stomach twist up even more. The big guy just stared. That creepy smile was gone now. His whole expression had gone slack, like someone unplugged him. For a second, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. I was shaking so bad I could barely stand. My body felt weightless, like my bones weren't holding me together anymore. Then, out of nowhere, the guy blinked like he had just noticed we were there. And he said something that made my blood run cold. I didn't mean to. His voice was soft. Too soft. Like he was just realizing what had happened. Then he looked scared. And that scared me even more. The big guy took a step back. Just one. His hands twitched at his sides, like he wasn't sure what to do with them. "I didn't mean to," he mumbled again, eyes darting between me and my dad. His voice was different now, shaky, almost regretful. But I didn't believe it. Not for a second. My dad didn't either. He didn't let up, didn't move an inch. He was staring the guy down like he was daring him to try something. "Didn't mean to do what?" my dad snapped. The guy swallowed hard. His Adam's apple bobbed. He rubbed his face like he was trying to wipe something off it. He let out a weird, choked sound. A laugh? A cough? I couldn't tell. I thought. He stopped himself. His expression shifted, like something behind his eyes just clicked. Then, just like that, he turned around and walked away. Not fast. Not slow. Just, gone. Like nothing even happened. I didn't move. Couldn't. My whole body felt like it was buzzing, like I'd just stuck a fork in an electrical socket. My dad stayed locked on the guy until he disappeared down the street. Even then, he didn't relax. He just turned to me, eyes scanning me up and down. "You okay?" His voice was tight, controlled. But I could hear the edge underneath. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. My brain was still catching up. 1 second, I was returning a dollar bill. The next, I was in some nightmare scenario where a guy twice my size had me in his grip. And now it was over. Just like that. I finally swallowed and nodded. Yeah. It was a lie. I wasn't okay. Not even close. My dad sighed and ran a hand through his hair. Jesus. He exhaled, slow and steady. Then he did something he never did. He pulled me into a hug. Not a quick, one-armed pat on the shoulder. A real, solid hug. The kind that tells you I thought I almost lost you. And that's when it hit me. My eyes burned. My throat tightened. The adrenaline was wearing off, and all that was left was this massive, crushing what just happened feeling pressing down on my chest. I wasn't okay. But at least I wasn't alone. We stood there for a minute, maybe more. My dad still had one arm around my shoulders, like he wasn't ready to let go yet. Neither was I. I wanted to act tough, like it didn't get to me. Like it was just a weird thing that happened and now it was over. But my body wasn't buying it. My hands were shaking. My legs felt weak. My scalp still tingled where that guy's fingers had clamped down. "I should have hit him," I muttered. It just slipped out. My dad pulled back a little, looking at me like I'd just said something crazy. "What?" "I should have hit him," I repeated. "Kicked him." screamed louder. Something. My dad shook his head. No, he said firmly. That wasn't your job. I frowned. Then what was I supposed to do? He exhaled, glancing down the street where the guy had disappeared. Sometimes, the only thing you can do is survive. I didn't like that answer. It made me feel small. Helpless. Like I wasn't in control of anything. But deep down, I knew he was right. I had survived. Barely. And now, I had to live with the fact that, for a few terrifying seconds, my life wasn't in my own hands. We didn't stay downtown much longer. My dad just muttered, "Let's go," and we headed back to the car. I walked fast. Every shadow, every stranger, felt like a threat. The sidewalk felt too open, like anything could happen again at any moment. By the time we got in the car and slammed the doors shut, I felt like I could finally breathe. But the second we pulled away from the curb, my dad's grip on the steering wheel tightened. His knuckles went white. Neither of us talked for a while. The hum of the engine filled the silence, but I could feel the weight of everything hanging between us. Finally, my dad broke the silence. I should have been closer. I blinked. What? He clenched his jaw. I let you get too far ahead. I should have been right next to you. I frowned. It's not your fault. He didn't answer. Just kept driving, his eyes locked on the road like he was still seeing what had just happened in his head. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to tell him it was fine, that we were okay. But the truth was, I didn't feel okay. And maybe he didn't either. We drove the rest of the way home in silence. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. I was exhausted, completely drained, but every time I closed my eyes, I felt his hand on my head again. That crushing grip. That too wide smile. And worst of all, the way he hesitated. That part wouldn't leave my brain. He was going to do something. I didn't know what, but I could feel it. Something inside him was flipping through decisions like a broken slot machine. And for a few seconds, I was at the mercy of wherever that reel landed. Would he have let me go if my dad hadn't been there? Would I have disappeared? I turned over, burying my face in the pillow. My body felt too small, too light, like I could float away. I didn't want to think about it anymore. But I knew this wasn't the last time it would creep up on me. The next morning, everything felt off. I woke up, but it wasn't the usual rush of getting ready for school or whatever. I just felt heavy. Like my body was still dealing with the shock of everything, and my mind hadn't caught up yet. I made my way downstairs, and there was my dad, already sipping his coffee, reading the paper like nothing happened. But I could see the tightness in his shoulders. He hadn't let go of the fear, either. "Morning," I muttered, sliding into a seat across from him. "Morning." His voice was quieter than usual, like he was holding something back. I didn't know how to start the conversation. We hadn't talked about what happened after we got home. It was like we both decided it wasn't worth discussing. But now, it felt like we needed to. So, I started, unsure of what to say. "You think he was on something?" Dad didn't look up from the paper. "Could be. People like that, you never know." I thought about that for a second. "Do you think he meant to hurt me?" Dad's eyes finally met mine, and for a second, I saw a flicker of something, anger, maybe, or sadness. He put the paper down, leaned forward. "No. He didn't mean to. But that doesn't mean he wouldn't have if he kept going." I swallowed hard. That was exactly what I'd been afraid of. "I don't want you walking around scared all the time," my dad said, his voice softer now. "But I do want you to be aware. What happened wasn't your fault. But we can't pretend it was just a random event. People like that exist. And sometimes, you need to be ready for the unexpected." I nodded, feeling both comforted and terrified at the same time. I spent the rest of the day feeling like I was walking in someone else's skin. Everything felt distant, like I wasn't really part of my own life. At school, I tried to push through the normal routine, but every time I passed a group of people on the sidewalk, I caught myself glancing around, just to make sure there wasn't some giant man waiting for me. It was ridiculous. I knew it was ridiculous. But the fear didn't care. When I got home that afternoon, I couldn't shake the feeling that my dad was still trying to process everything in his own way. He wasn't saying much. His usual dad jokes and chatter about the news had gone silent. I caught him staring at the front door a couple of times, like he was looking for something or waiting for something to happen. Finally, after dinner, he broke the silence. "You know," he said, almost too casually, "I ran a check on that guy." I raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Yeah." Didn't like the feeling of what happened, so I looked into it. He paused. "Turns out, he's got a record. Been in and out of some places." I felt my stomach drop. "What kind of record?" He sighed. "Stuff like assault. Public disturbances. Nothing that would have flagged him as a danger, but it's enough to make me think we were lucky." The words hit me like a punch. It wasn't random. It wasn't just some weird guy. This was someone who had history. "I'm fine, right?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, but I knew it sounded weak. My dad didn't answer right away. He just stared at his plate, the weight of everything finally sinking into him too. "You're fine," he said eventually. "But you're not invincible." And I hated how true that was. The days that followed felt like a slow crawl. I tried to pretend like everything was normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted inside me, inside my dad, inside the world around me. I started carrying a little pocket knife in my backpack, just in case. Not that I thought it would do much, but it gave me a small sense of control. At school, I stayed in the hallways as much as I could, away from the crowds. I watched people pass by, trying to gauge who I should be afraid of, who I should trust. It was exhausting. But then something strange happened. A few days after the incident, I ran into a girl in the hallway, a friend from my class. Her name was Kelly. She was carrying a heavy backpack, rushing to her next class, when she bumped into me. "Hey, you good?" she asked, noticing the way I was looking around. I froze for a second, unsure how to answer. How do you tell someone you're terrified all the time but don't know why? "Yeah, I'm fine," I lied. She raised an eyebrow. "You don't look fine. What's going on?" It was a weird feeling, someone actually noticing. Noticing enough to ask. I don't think I had ever really been seen like that before. So I just blurted it out. "I don't know. I've just been feeling weird lately. Like, all of a sudden, everyone's a threat." She looked at me for a moment, and then she nodded slowly. "I get it," she said quietly. "I had something happen to me last year. It changed the way I see people, too. But you don't have to do this alone, okay?" And for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel quite so alone. That conversation with Kelly didn't fix everything, but it did something I hadn't realized I needed. It opened a door. After that, I started talking more. Little by little, to my dad, to Kelly, to people who I could trust. It wasn't easy. Every time I told the story, my throat would close up, and it felt like I was reliving it all over again. But eventually, the weight of it lightened. Just a little. My dad and I spent more time together, too. It wasn't like before, there was still tension in the air, but it was different. We both understood that we couldn't just pretend like nothing happened. I think, in his own way, he was still scared. Not for himself, but for me. He never came out and said it, but I could see it in the way he watched me when I went outside, the way he double-checked the locks at night. We both had a lot to process. A week after the incident, we went for a walk. No bikes, no errands, just the two of us, walking down the same streets where everything went down. The weather was mild, the sky overcast like it couldn't decide what it wanted to do. "I've been thinking," my dad said after a while. "Maybe we should do something together. Like a weekend trip. Get away from the city for a bit. I didn't respond right away. Part of me didn't want to leave the house. Didn't want to leave the comfort of the familiar. But another part of me knew I had to. Yeah, I said, finally. That sounds good. It was a small step, but it felt like progress. It wasn't the end of the fear, but it was the beginning of something else. That weekend trip we took turned out to be more than just an escape. It was a chance for both of us to take a breath. We didn't talk much about what happened, there wasn't really a need to. It was there, hovering in the background, but the space between us felt a little less heavy. Over the next few months, the memory started to fade, not because I forgot, but because I learned how to live with it. I couldn't change what happened, but I could control how I reacted. I began to be more aware, more careful, but not out of fear. Out of respect for my own strength, for my ability to handle things when they came my way. And honestly, that's the advice I'd give to anyone who finds themselves in a similar situation. Don't let fear define you. It's okay to be scared, to be shaken to your core, but don't let it own you. It's about how you respond, how you pick yourself up afterward, and how you move forward with a little more wisdom and a little more caution. You'll get through it. You'll be okay. But don't forget that it's okay to lean on others when you need to. You don't have to face it alone.